The twisted hulk of metal burned against the night sky, illuminating the forest clearing with flickering orange light. Kira stumbled from the wreckage, her pale blue skin glowing faintly in the darkness. Pain shot through her leg with each step, a dark purple liquid seeping from the wound. Behind her, the ship's warning system blared a final time before falling silent. "Life support critical," announced the ship's computer in her native tongue. "Oxygen reserves depleted. Atmosphere toxic to Luxian physiology." Kira slumped against a tree, her breathing labored. The air of this planet, Earth, according to her navigation system, burned her lungs with each breath. She had minutes, perhaps an hour at most, before her respiratory system would fail completely. The Void Empire had been more determined than she'd anticipated, their pursuit forcing her to make an emergency jump that had damaged her ship beyond repair. 3 clicks away, Tom Miller jerked awake at his cabin window. The retired military medic had chosen this remote mountain location precisely because nothing ever happened here. Yet the brilliant streak of light that had torn across the sky moments ago was definitely not a meteor. He'd seen enough experimental aircraft during his service to recognize the difference. Curiosity warred with caution as he grabbed his med kit, a flashlight, and his old service pistol. 2 years of solitude had made him wary of company, but 20 years as a combat medic had ingrained in him a duty to help. The forest was eerily quiet as Tom followed the smoke trail. He expected to find a downed aircraft, perhaps a military prototype. What he discovered instead made him freeze in his tracks. "Well, I'll be damned," he whispered. The craft was like nothing he'd ever seen, clearly not of Earth origin. And huddled against a tree, barely conscious, was an unmistakably female figure whose blue-tinged skin and delicate gill-like structures along her neck confirmed she was definitely not human. Kira's vision blurred as a beam of light swept over her. The tall figure approaching was unmistakably human, the same species that Luxian historical records described as violent, unpredictable, and dangerously primitive. She tried to reach for her defense tool, but her arms felt too heavy to move. "Stay back," she managed to say, her translator converting her words to the local language. Tom stopped, surprised by the perfect English coming from the alien. "You're hurt," he said simply, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm a medic. I can help." "Humans, dangerous," Kira gasped, her skin darkening to a deep blue as her oxygen levels dropped further. "Maybe some of us," Tom acknowledged, kneeling slowly a few feet away. "But right now, I'm your best chance at survival, and you know it." Their eyes met, hers with 4 pupils arranged in a square, his a simple brown. Something passed between them, an understanding that transcended their biological differences. "Can't breathe your air," she explained, her voice weakening. Tom's mind raced. "My cabin has an oxygen tank from when I had pneumonia last winter. It might buy us some time to figure this out." When Kira didn't respond, Tom made his decision. Moving slowly, he approached and gently lifted her. She was surprisingly light, her body temperature cooler than a human's. Her consciousness was fading, but she didn't resist. As Tom carried her through the forest, the night sky above them lit up with a brief, distant flash. Unknown to either of them, the first Void Empire scout ship had just entered Earth's atmosphere, beginning their search for the fugitive who carried secrets that could change the fate of multiple worlds. In his isolated cabin, a retired human soldier who wanted nothing more than to be left alone was about to become the unlikely guardian of an alien girl, and perhaps, unwittingly, the savior of her entire species. Morning light filtered through the cabin windows as Tom checked Kira's vital signs. The makeshift oxygen delivery system he'd rigged from his medical supplies seemed to be working. Her breathing had stabilized overnight, though her normally pale blue skin still showed patches of darker blue, a sign of stress, he guessed. "Your atmosphere is like poison to me," Kira explained weakly, her 4-pupiled eyes studying Tom as he changed the bandage on her leg. "My people, the Luxians, evolved in an environment with less nitrogen and more trace gases." Tom nodded, working methodically. "The oxygen tank will last about 3 more days. After that, we'll need another solution." He noticed how Kira's skin rippled with faint patterns when she spoke, shifting between shades of blue. It wasn't just stress causing the color changes, it seemed to be part of her communication. Your skin, Tom said, gesturing. It changes when you talk. Kira's eyes widened slightly. You noticed? Yes, for Luxians, verbal language is only half of our communication. The color patterns express emotion, context, emphasis. She paused. It's strange to speak with someone who cannot see the full meaning. Like talking on the phone, Tom mused. We manage. Later that day, as Tom prepared a meal, Kira examined the objects around his cabin with careful curiosity. She picked up a framed photograph showing Tom in military uniform with other soldiers. You were a warrior? She asked. Tom glanced over. A healer, actually. Military medic. I patched up the wounded. Yet you carry a weapon, she noted, eyeing the pistol he'd set on the table. Old habits, he shrugged. This is remote country. Bears, mountain lions. And sometimes people can be threats too. Kira's skin darkened. On my world, we have stories about humans. They say you're unpredictable, violent, dangerous. She looked at him directly. But you saved me. Tom sat down across from her. We're complicated. Capable of terrible things and wonderful things, sometimes in the same day. He pushed a bowl toward her, a carefully prepared mix of fruits and vegetables he hoped might be compatible with her physiology. We're young as a species, still figuring it out. Kira cautiously tasted the food. Her skin brightened to a pleasant turquoise, apparently approval. The Void Empire believes your kind too primitive to be worth considering. That's why they felt safe pursuing me to Earth. They don't expect resistance. Tell me about them, Tom said. And why they're after you. They consume worlds, Kira explained, her skin pattern shifting to darker, angry swirls. My planet has special energy crystals formed over millions of years. The Void Empire wants them. But extracting them would destroy our world. She reached into a hidden pocket in her clothing and produced a small crystal that glowed with inner light. I was part of a research team. We discovered a way to synthesize the crystals without mining them. The Empire would rather destroy our planet than allow that knowledge to spread. Tom whistled low. So you're a scientist on the run. I was supposed to rendezvous with our allies, Kira said. I never expected to crash here. She winced suddenly, her hand going to her side. Tom moved to check her. What's wrong? Old injury, she explained. From my escape. Tom examined the area she indicated, finding a poorly healed wound. This wasn't treated properly. I had no time, she said. Tom reached for his med kit, but Kira stopped him. Let me show you something. Her fingers gently touched the old shrapnel scar on Tom's forearm. This causes you pain still, yes? Tom nodded, surprised. Kira's fingers began to emit a soft glow. On Lucia, we've developed medical techniques that work with the body's energy fields. The warmth spread through Tom's arm, and for the first time in years, the chronic ache faded completely. Outside the cabin, high in Earth's atmosphere, 3 black ships silently deployed scanning equipment, beginning a methodical search pattern. The hunt for the alien fugitive had begun in earnest. Tom tensed as he peered through his binoculars at the distant figures moving through the forest. Their metallic armor gleamed unnaturally in the afternoon sun, and they moved with a mechanical precision that was distinctly inhuman. Void Empire scouts, Kira whispered beside him, her skin darkening to a deep, alarmed indigo. They're tracking the radiation signature from my ship. They were hidden in a small cave overlooking the valley, having fled the cabin that morning after Tom spotted the strange lights in the sky. He had grabbed only essentials, his med kit, the remaining oxygen, some food, and his old service pistol, which now seemed laughably inadequate against the advanced weaponry carried by the alien soldiers. How many do you think there are? Tom asked, keeping his voice low. A standard search party consists of 12 soldiers and a commander, Kira replied. They'll establish a perimeter and work inward. It's how they hunt. Tom handed her the binoculars. We need to keep moving then. There's an old mining tunnel about 2 miles east. Might shield whatever signals they're using to track you. As they prepared to move, a faint whirring sound made them freeze. A small drone-like device hovered just outside the cave entrance, its sensor array rotating slowly. Tom and Kira pressed themselves against the rock wall, barely breathing. After what seemed like an eternity, the device moved on. They're more thorough than I expected, Kira admitted once it was gone. They must really want me dead. Or they want what you know, Tom corrected. Tell me more about these crystals while we wait for dark. Kira's four-pupiled eyes fixed on the cave entrance as she spoke. The crystals form the heart of my planet. They connect all living things on Lucia. The Empire claims they want them for energy, but their true purpose is control. With them, they could power weapons capable of subjugating entire systems. And your research would make that unnecessary, Tom concluded. Kira nodded. My team found a way to synthesize the energy signature without destroying the crystals. It would provide sustainable power to many worlds. Her skin rippled with subtle patterns of pride tinged with sadness. Everyone on my research team was killed. I'm the only one left who knows the full process. Darkness fell slowly. As they prepared to leave the cave, the distant sound of an engine caught Tom's attention. Lights appeared on the road leading to the nearest town. That's Ray's truck, Tom muttered, recognizing his old friend's vehicle. What's he doing up here? Another human? Kira's skin paled with alarm. Ray checks on me sometimes. Ex-military like me. Stubborn as hell. Tom frowned. He'll go to the cabin first. When he finds it empty, he'll start searching. He'll lead the Void soldiers straight to us, Kira said. Tom made a quick decision. Stay here. I'll intercept him. It's too dangerous. Ray's a good man. And we need help. 20 minutes later, Tom crouched in the underbrush near his cabin, watching as Ray examined the empty building, flashlight in hand. The older man had served with Tom in 3 combat zones, his weathered face a map of the hard years between them. Ray, Tom called softly, stepping from the shadows with his hands visible. Ray spun, hand instinctively moving to his hip where Tom knew he carried a concealed weapon. Tom? What the hell, man? You trying to get shot? We need to talk, but not here, Tom said urgently. There are hostiles in the woods. Ray's expression hardened instantly, combat instincts kicking in. What kind of hostiles? Before Tom could answer, a chilling howl echoed through the trees, not animal, not human, but something else entirely. Ray's eyes widened. What was that? Void hounds, came Kira's voice as she suddenly appeared beside Tom, her skin glowing faintly in the darkness. They release them when they're close to their target. Ray stumbled back, weapon now drawn and pointed at Kira. Tom, what the hell is that? She's who they're hunting, Tom said calmly, stepping between Ray's gun and Kira. And she needs our help. Another howl, closer now. Kira's skin pulsed with urgent patterns. You need to decide now, Tom told his friend. Are you with us or not? This is insane, Ray muttered as he soldered the last connection on the makeshift communication device. 3 days had passed since their narrow escape from Tom's cabin. They had taken refuge in an abandoned ranger station deep in the national forest, a place Ray had once used during hunting trips. Kira watched with fascination as the 2 humans worked with primitive tools to adapt parts of her damaged transmitter to Earth technology. Her own blue fingers moved deftly alongside theirs, guiding their work. My people would never think to use copper wiring this way, she admitted, her skin rippling with patterns of admiration. We became so dependent on our advanced materials that we lost the ability to improvise. Tom grinned as he stripped another wire with his hunting knife. Humans are good at making do. It's kind of our specialty. Or our curse, Ray added, wiping sweat from his brow. The aging veteran had taken the existence of aliens with surprising calm. After the initial shock, he had simply nodded and said, Always figured we weren't alone. His military experience had taught him to adapt quickly to changing situations. Outside, a gentle rain began to fall, providing cover for any sounds they might make. It also disrupted the Void Empire's scanning equipment, a small advantage they desperately needed. The signal needs to be stronger, Kira said, examining their work. At this power level, it won't reach orbit, let alone my home system. Ray scratched his beard thoughtfully. There's an old TV broadcast tower about 12 miles north. If we could tap into that. Too exposed, Tom said. The Void soldiers have been sweeping that area for days. Kira's skin darkened with frustration. Without a proper signal booster, this is useless. Tom stood up and walked to the window, watching raindrops trace patterns on the glass. Something about the water's movement triggered a memory from his military days. We don't need a commercial tower, he said slowly. What about water? My unit once used a lake as a signal amplifier in the field. Something about the mineral content and surface area. Kira's eyes widened. That could actually work. Her skin brightened to an excited turquoise. Water can conduct and amplify certain frequencies. With the right modulation, we could use the lake 5 miles from here. Ray looked between them, shaking his head with a grim smile. Alien technology meets military field improvisation. What a world! As night fell, they gathered around a small table covered with hand-drawn maps. Tom had marked Void Empire patrol patterns based on their observations over the past days. They're methodical, he explained. 4-hour rotation, 6 soldiers per quadrant. But they're expanding their search area every day. General Drac doesn't give up easily, Kira said, her skin patterns shifting to show deep concern. On my world, he's known as the Persistent One. He's destroyed 3 planets hunting down Resistance members. Well, he hasn't met Earth's resistance yet, Ray said, checking the magazine on his hunting rifle. The weapon seemed almost primitive compared to the energy weapons the Void soldiers carried, but it was all they had. Tom unfolded a larger map. I've got 4 friends from my old unit who live within 50 miles. Good people, trustworthy. If we can reach them. A sharp beeping from one of Kira's devices cut him off. Her skin paled to a sickly light blue. They've found us, she whispered. Tom immediately began gathering their equipment. How much time? Minutes. Maybe less. Kira's hands moved swiftly over the half-finished communicator. This isn't ready yet. Take what we need. We'll finish it at the lake, Tom decided. Ray, remember that hunting blind on the North Shore? Ray nodded. Perfect cover. Good sight lines. As they hurriedly packed, Kira paused, looking at the 2 humans with an expression that transcended species differences. Why are you risking your lives for me? Your world isn't even part of this conflict. Tom and Ray exchanged a glance, years of shared combat experience passing between them in a silent communication almost as effective as Kira's color patterns. It is now, Tom said simply, handing her the partially completed transmitter. And humans protect their own. In the distance, the unnatural howling of void hounds echoed through the rainy night. The lake's surface rippled under the moonlight as Tom secured the modified transmitter to the makeshift platform they had constructed. Rain continued to fall in a light mist, obscuring their movements and dampening sounds. Ray had positioned himself on a rocky outcrop 50 yards away, rifle trained on the forest edge where they expected the Void soldiers to emerge. How much longer? Tom whispered, glancing nervously at the tree line. Kira's fingers moved with precise efficiency across the device's exposed circuits. The water is already amplifying the signal, but I need to calibrate the frequency to bypass the Empire's communication jammers. Her skin flickered with intense concentration, the pale blue occasionally flashing with streaks of determined yellow. The howling of void hounds had stopped, a more worrying sign than their continued pursuit. It meant the hunters were close enough that they no longer needed to track. Tom! Ray's voice crackled through the small radio. Movement southeast, approaching fast. At least 8 signatures. They're not even trying to be stealthy anymore. Tom drew his pistol. Kira, we're out of time. Almost there. She insisted, making a final adjustment. The signal needs to reach the upper atmosphere to connect with any passing Luxian vessels. We have one chance. The first energy blast sizzled through the air just inches from Tom's head, striking a tree behind him and instantly turning it to ash. He grabbed Kira and pulled her behind a large boulder as more shots followed. Ray status. Tom called into the radio. Engaging, came the terse reply, followed by the crack of his rifle. There's too many. You need to get that signal sent now. Kira peered at the transmitter, now sitting exposed on the lakeshore. It's ready, but I need to activate it manually. The sequence requires direct input. Tom calculated the distance, 20 yards of open ground under heavy fire. Cover me, he told Kira, handing her his pistol. I'll activate it. No, she protested, her skin darkening with alarm. You don't know the sequence. It has to be me. Before Tom could argue, a massive explosion rocked the far side of the lake. Ray had detonated the improvised explosives they'd created from chemicals at the ranger station. Now! Ray shouted through the radio. They're repositioning. Kira burst from cover, sprinting toward the transmitter. Tom followed, providing what protection he could. She reached the device and began entering the activation sequence, her skin glowing with intense concentration. The momentary distraction hadn't lasted long enough. 3 Void soldiers emerged from the forest, their faceless helmets turning in unison toward Kira. Keep going, Tom shouted, placing himself between her and the soldiers. The first energy blast caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around but not dropping him. Gritting through the pain, Tom charged forward, tackling the nearest soldier into the shallow water. The alien's superior strength should have overpowered him, but Tom fought with the desperate intensity of someone with everything to lose. Behind him, Kira worked frantically, the transmitter beginning to hum with power. The lake's surface rippled unnaturally as the signal used the water to amplify itself. Tom managed to disable one soldier, using the alien's own weapon against him, but the others closed in. An energy blast grazed his leg, and he fell to one knee. It's working, Kira called, her voice filled with hope as the transmitter powered to full capacity. That's when the imposing figure stepped from the shadows, taller than the other soldiers, his armor more elaborate. General Drac had arrived personally. Impressive for primitives. The general's voice hissed through his helmet's translator. But futile. With casual deliberation, he raised his weapon toward Kira. Tom saw the movement and found a final surge of strength. Lunging forward despite his injuries, he slammed into the general, disrupting his aim. The energy blast went wide, striking the transmitter instead. Kira cried out in dismay as the device sparked and smoked. Tom felt a crushing blow as the general struck him, sending him sprawling onto the rocky shore. Pain exploded through his body, and he felt ribs crack under the impact. Through blurred vision, he saw Kira standing defiant beside the damaged transmitter. Against all odds, its central core still glowed, the signal still broadcasting weakly. Enough games? General Drac said, advancing on Kira. The knowledge dies with you. Tom's world narrowed to a single thought as consciousness began to fade. They had come too far to fail now. Tom forced himself to his feet, blood streaming from a gash across his forehead. His military training had taught him that sometimes victory wasn't about strength, it was about will. Every breath sent daggers of pain through his broken ribs, but he stood anyway, positioning himself once more between Kira and General Drac. Stay down, human, Drac commanded, his voice distorted through the translator. This doesn't concern your primitive species. That's where you're wrong, Tom replied, his voice steady despite his injuries. You brought this fight to my world. To my home. Drac's helmet tilted slightly, studying Tom with what might have been curiosity. Interesting. Most species cower before the Void Empire. Yet you stand broken and outmatched, with no hope of victory. Behind them, the damaged transmitter continued to pulse weakly, its signal barely reaching the upper atmosphere. Kira worked frantically to reroute its power through the remaining functional circuits, her blue fingers moving with desperate precision. Let me explain something about humans, Tom said, taking a painful step forward. Every word was buying Kira precious seconds. We're not the strongest species. Probably not the smartest either. But there's one thing you should know about us. Ray's voice suddenly crackled through the radio at Tom's belt. In position. East Ridge. Tom didn't acknowledge, keeping Drax's attention fixed on him. We don't know how to quit. It's our greatest flaw and our greatest strength. Drax raised his weapon. Meaningless words from a dying species. We were hunting and crafting tools while your ancestors were still evolving. Tom continued, his voice growing stronger. We survived ice ages with nothing but fire and determination. We've fought each other for thousands of years, which means we know exactly how to fight you. For the first time, uncertainty seemed to register in Drax's posture. Your defiance is... Not defiance, Tom interrupted. Education. Because one day, when your empire is dust, the galaxy should remember what happened here. How one human stood against you and didn't blink. While Tom spoke, Kira had completed her work on the transmitter. Her skin glowed with a brilliant blue light as she channeled her own body's energy into the device, a desperate, final attempt to boost its signal. Drax sensed the change and spun toward her. No! The shot from Ray's rifle cracked across the lake, striking Drax's armor with perfect precision at its weakest joint. The general staggered but didn't fall. 2 more shots followed in rapid succession. Tom seized the moment, diving for Drax's legs despite his injuries. They crashed to the ground together, the general's weapon discharging wildly into the night sky. Now, Kira! Tom shouted. Kira pressed her hands firmly against the transmitter's core. Her skin pulsed with intense patterns of determination and hope as she channeled everything she had into the device. The lake's surface began to glow, the water itself amplifying the signal to levels that shouldn't have been possible with their makeshift technology. A blinding light erupted from the transmitter, shooting skyward like a beacon. Drax roared in fury, throwing Tom aside with inhuman strength. But it was too late. The signal had been sent. It doesn't matter, Drax snarled, advancing on Kira. Your people are too far away. By the time they receive your message, nothing will remain of you but atoms. A new light appeared in the sky, not from the transmitter, but from above. A brilliant flash illuminated the entire lake as if day had suddenly broken. Drax's helmet tilted upward in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. A massive ship, elegant and gleaming with blue-white light, broke through the clouds. Smaller vessels deployed from its hull, descending rapidly. The Luxian Defense Fleet, Kira explained, her skin radiant with triumph. They were closer than the Empire realized, waiting for my signal. Drax backed away, signaling frantically to his scattered forces. This isn't over. The Empire does not forget. Neither do humans, Tom said, standing tall despite his injuries. Within minutes, the Void forces retreated, their ships desperately breaking atmosphere as the superior Luxian fleet gave chase. On the lakeshore, Luxian medical teams arrived, their advanced technology quickly stabilizing Tom's injuries. Days later, as Tom recovered aboard the Luxian command ship, the fleet admiral approached him with Kira at his side. Your world is now known to the wider galaxy, the admiral explained. The Luxian Council wishes to extend our gratitude and offer advanced technology as compensation. Tom shook his head. Technology isn't what humanity needs right now. We need allies who understand our value beyond our development level. Kira stepped forward, her skin displaying patterns that Tom had come to recognize as deep respect. I've volunteered to remain on Earth as ambassador. To teach others what I've learned about humans. And what's that? Tom asked with a small smile. That sometimes the greatest strength in the universe isn't found in advanced weapons or technology, she replied, her color patterns expressing a depth of emotion that transcended words. It's found in the heart of a single being willing to stand against impossible odds for what they believe in. As the Luxian ship established orbit around Earth, a new chapter began, not just for humanity, but for a galaxy that would soon learn that technological advancement was only one measure of a species' worth.